in these yellow journalism papers, like the National Enquirer and such others like that. Some of them are really rugged. I mean, they're just you know, the, the Bigfoot baby born to some couple, or things like that. Alien baby and all this kind of ridiculousness. Sometimes in these newspapers, they show pictures. I know this because I saw one of these papers when I was a little boy. Some of my uncles and always would read these things, so they're always around the house, and so I know what's in there, and I imagine it hasn't changed. I haven't looked in one in 40 years or so, and I imagine it's still the same, if not worse. Yeah. But in these papers, you always see too, like a photo of so and so's ghost captured in, in such and such. Yeah. And the statement is they always use the same statement that I was looking at this stairway and I thought, wow, what a really cool stairway. I think I'm gonna take a picture of this stairway. And so they take a picture of the stairway. Then when the photos are developed, there's an alleged apparition standing there. And the guy's like, you know what? That wasn't even there when I took that photo, and it showed up on the negative, and it got printed on the photo, and the next thing you know, that must be a ghost, and things like that. And thinking about some of the things that are in these newspapers that people really, really fall for. This led me to come to this, with this, people who say they captured ghosts or whatever in the camera, in a photo. I mean, yeah. So I was just, for the heck of it, I remember, I did a seminar in England one time in London. I was taking pictures of this room. There were about 80 participants that I had for this seminar, and it was a 1 week long event, and at the end we had kind of a celebration kind of thing, closing out the week and so forth. So we had some singing and things going on, and it was really a fun time. So people were taking pictures of everybody, and things like that, and here one of my photos shows a whole crap load of these circles. People call them orbs. Yeah. I just for fun, I put some on my. They're not there anymore. Yeah, I put some on my website, and everybody took it the wrong way. Yeah, everybody was saying, "Oh, look at all the spirits that were there," and so forth, and I was like, get real. So I took the photo down, and I just thought it was cool, because it really there's no such thing as orbs, yeah. This is a camera effect. It's one of the what do you call it? It's a technical issue that happens on all cameras. Yeah, it just does. It's with the process. Yeah, it's what happens to the image, and sometimes something glitches. This is not a ghost. This is not a spirit. This is not a gremlin. It's just something that happens. Machines are that way. Yeah. Sometimes you have a car, and sometimes a glitch is going to happen there, and that's because it's mechanical. Machines are this way. They do have glitches. It's just how it is. Yeah, and that's all that is. I remember one time I was at a Christmas party here in Berlin, and I was sitting there and eating, and one of the guests there took a picture of me, and so I made a really goofy face, and now this was with a digital camera, yeah. And she emailed me the photo, and I looked at it and said, "Hey, there's something on my shoulder." It was one of these circular things, and it has a certain kind of design. And this is really common. Yeah, there's nothing unusual about this. Really, seriously, this is just a glitch. I already checked this out. Yeah, I asked my spirit guide, and that's what he told me. Who did I say my spirit guide is? My spirit guide is a old rodeo clown. His name is Gorgeous George. he's he's a rodeo clown from the 1800s. When I channel him, he's always late, and and he's still eating. So when he talks, it just sounds like a hum hum hum. Oh man, sorry, I just slipped into this side topic here, but anyway, it is just a glitch. Yeah, that's all it is. I checked this out with photographers and in several places here in the city, and everything came back the same. It's a glitch. They even showed me how it happens. Yeah, this is nothing unusual. It just does happen. Yeah, and this was a digital camera. That there wasn't anything. It was not the old-fashioned kind. It's the process. Yeah, the whole, how do you say that? The mechanics behind it, the whole science behind it, and sometimes glitches happen, and this is so common. Yeah, it's not anything unusual. And I saw other examples of this, and it's the same thing. This is not a soul. Yeah, because it's according to Lakota Star knowledge, soul is not what you think it is. Yeah, so many of us are programmed by Christianity, and and we come to believe in these beings that have wings and guardian angels, and people make up the most outrageous stories to it's just wishful thinking that's manifesting itself as a hallucination. That's all it is. Seriously, that's all it is. Because a soul, it just is something completely different. Yeah, and angels, the concept of angels doesn't fit with Lakota Star knowledge. Yeah, the logic is ridiculous. Yeah, it is a dualistic concept. That's the reason why. Yeah, a guardian angel is a dualistic concept. This is why it does not fit. So, these are the kind of things that that I was thinking about earlier, and looking at these photos. Yeah, that I've done several seminars and in Europe, and some of the things that are on there, and these are some of these photos were sent to me from other people, and all the cameras are digital. Yeah, and they have these certain glitches on there, and that's all it is. It's nothing but a glitch. Yeah. This one book, it had photos of this again, some stairway, and allegedly somebody took a photo there, and there was a lady standing there that wasn't there when the photo was being taken, but you could see it. Yeah. And people were wondering, they're all saying this is a ghost, and that this was at some manor in England, and they call this lady the Brown Lady, yeah, because the ghost is wearing a brown dress. This is a murder that happened, and I think it was the 1700s or 1800s or something like that, a long time ago. And she was married to a rich guy, somebody in the lower echelons of royalty there. And this guy was really a sadistic man. She didn't know that. And he was really nice and such. And that's how, she ended up, being tricked by him to become his wife. And then shortly afterwards, he was very sadistic with her. Basically, he made her a prisoner in their mansion. And so she couldn't get out. She wasn't allowed to have guests. And so she was really kind of, she was just sad, yeah. There were lots of people who worked there as servants. She wasn't allowed to talk to them, but they could see her in the distance, yeah, and they could see that she was really sad, and she seemed to be crying a lot, and so forth, and that whenever they saw this couple together, he's always shouting at her and beating her, and they were too scared to do anything because this guy's he's in royalty, yeah, so they couldn't do anything. And then one day she decided, she's going to. The only way she's going to get out is she has to kill him. And so she puts together a plan, and she ends up killing the wrong guy by accident. And once the husband figures out that death was meant for him, he killed that woman. Yeah, and so allegedly this is her. She was wearing this brown dress when he did that, and so allegedly this lady is wanders around that house, but for some reason she hangs around this stairway, and so that's where most of the sightings have occurred. Well, the thing is, there's less than 10 sightings, yeah, and the last one was when was it, the 1930s or something like that, where some guys didn't believe it, so they allegedly went there and they described their experience, and they saw her in the library, and she saw them and really made a grimace and looked just evil, pure evil at them, and screamed at them and freaked the hell out of them. In the meantime, one of the team that was there thought he said, "Wow, what a cool stairway," and took some pictures, and lo and behold, there she is. She appears on the stairway. I don't believe it. Yeah, there's several things wrong with this story. Yeah, there's several things wrong. See, I'm a believer of Lakota Star Knowledge, and I live by Lakota Star Knowledge concepts. And there's something about what I just told you that violates that. Yeah, it goes against natural law. Yeah, that's why I don't believe it. And the other thing is, if this incident happened, back then, there should be thousands of reports by now, and there should be shitloads of photographic and audio evidence. Literally. Yeah? There should be crap loads of this stuff. And video evidence too. Yeah? There should be tons of evidence here if this was real. But as time goes on and we become more and more technologically developed, now just about everybody who has a phone that can make videos. How come hundreds of people are not over there right now trying to catch this thing? And then, of course, the believers will say, "Oh, because she's, they don't like it when large groups of people are around, so they don't show themselves." Bullshit. Total bullshit. I don't believe that. I absolutely do not believe that. And even so, send one team over at a time. Do 24-hour shifts. Yeah, one team. Send one team there, and they're on shift for 5 hours because that's probably the max that they can be totally alert. Then another team comes in for another 5 hours, and that first one leaves, and keep rotate like 6 or 7 teams like that, so they're always fresh. And maybe not only that. Maybe have like about 10 or 20 sets of teams involving 6 teams, yeah, and have them do this in all corners of this place. So this way, there's not a whole group of people there. And even then, just leave everything there and do it by remote control, because we have that technology now. Do it by remote control. So nobody's there. there's bound to be something showing up. But how come it isn't? Because it's bullshit. People want to believe it. The mind is a strange creature in itself. The mind can project thoughts as persons. The mind can project issues, concerns, traumas as people. And we're the only ones that are going to see it. This cannot be captured by camera because we're the only ones that see it. It's a hallucination. All you have to do is suggest it. And sure, in a group of people, you just have to suggest it. And others will think that they have seen it. But when you really, really get them calmed down, separate everybody in that team, different rooms, and really get them to the nitty-gritty. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you have to hypnotize them. If there's a team of 6, you're going to get 6 different accounts. And they are going to be hallucinations. Yeah? But I think by now, it should be really easy to capture these things on film, on video, audio, and more photographic evidence. Yeah? And why not interview them? Yeah, really. Well, like I said, there's a bunch of elements in these stories that violate natural law. And it just is, because of that, it can't exist. This is how it is, yeah? In London, I talked about this before. In England, I should say, there's this show. I forgot what it's called. It's not here yet in Germany because I don't think people would even believe it here. But there's this show where they go to these really haunted places in the English countryside, and this team, they set up all over the place, and they're out to see if they can witness any paranormal events. It's just a bullshit show, yeah. It's just they never see anything, and if anything, they scare themselves, and then they'll say, "Oh, did you feel that? Something cold just walked by. Did you feel that? Oh yeah." Ooh. They just support each other's BS, yeah. And I think it's all scripted too. Yeah, I really don't think it's. I think a lot of reality shows are not reality at all. They're scripted, and because it looks like bad acting. Yeah. So I think that's what this is, and you never see anything, but people tune into it, and it keeps people in a dualistic state of becoming an idiot. Yeah. Becoming a zombie, and staying a zombie. Yeah. So anyway, oh my. There's a Facebook group on that for Indians, yeah, and I looked into that, and it's just ridiculous, and people putting up alleged photographs of places. It is just stupid. I mean, I'm not even an expert on that, but I can explain about every one of the photos that they post up. Yeah, I can tell where it's fake, and some people are good at manipulating their cameras to produce things too. Yeah, you play with a certain aspect of your machine, and you can get certain results. You might think it's somebody else. I remember where I live in Dupree, in South Dakota. This is on the northwest side of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tract. And there was a family of bullshitters there. I'm not going to say their last name, but I am related to them. Yeah, they're my cousins. Boy, this is a really rugged crew here. Yeah, the dad got drunk all the time. The mom got drunk all the time, and even their kids got drunk all the time. A lot of times they would bring girls there and get them really drunk, and then they would violate them, and then they would threaten them, in a cruel way. If they tell anybody, they're going to do this and do that and so forth. So a lot of wicked shit was going on inside that house. And then one night, allegedly, it's a winter night, allegedly they heard a really loud boom knocking on their door, and they had music going on, just loud and everything, but that boom was louder than the music. So they turned everything off, and then the dad allegedly opened the door, and there was a dark figure standing there. And behind him was another dark figure that looked like a horse. And the dark figure in front of the doors looked like an Indian that lived long time ago. And then all the lights were off, so they couldn't see, but they could see this dark figure. Then they saw this dark figure getting on the horse, and it took off. And so they were telling this story. I didn't believe it. As exciting as it sounds, I didn't believe it, because I know this family really likes to tell lies. And I think this was a group lie. I think they created the story to try to take away the way people were looking at them as people who get people drunk and then take advantage of them sexually. And this was happening big time in that house. And that was the time period when the tribal cops were corrupt too. Because this was during a time when there was a racism that was really strong between Lakota people that had light colored skin, meaning they're mixed blood, and the people who are dark brown. There was this animosity because the people who had lighter colored skin, they controlled the tribe. Yeah, and so all the tribal program monies would benefit their people, and the dark-skinned people, they didn't receive any kind of benefit from that, and so this created an animosity. And in the 1980s, that animosity still existed, and a lot of these tribal cops were these lighter-skinned Lakota people, Lakota French people, you could say, because they have French last names. And in those days, on the west side, this is the traditional side of the reservation, you didn't want to get caught by those police officers, especially late at night, because what they're going to do is they're going to take you out in the country. If you're a girl, they're going to gang rape you, yeah, and then they're going to knock you out, and they're on the police report, they're going to say they found you passed out behind some building, yeah, with your pants down. And so and the judge and shit, everybody was in the same family, so they all backed each other up. That's how it was up to the 1980s, maybe even the 1990s. It was like that. Yeah, that's how the res was. So you didn't want to get caught. If you're a guy, then they take you out in the middle of nowhere and beat the crap out of you. And then they're going to write on their report that you were resisting arrest. And again, the judge is their relative. So even if you tell the truth, it's your word against two cops who are related to the judge, which means you're either probably going to stay in jail or end up paying a fine or both. And the cops can go up and beat somebody else again. That's how it used to be. This is why another reason why people didn't want to report this family, because they had connections with the judicial system. So if you try to report against them, the backlash is going to be really bad. They might send the cops out to harass you. Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah, this was a no good time. Yeah, I was about my early 20s during that time period, and it was really, really not a good time on the res. If you were a wild kind of person, yeah, you really have to watch what you're doing. Yeah, so this family made up the story, and then I think that took away attention from what was going on. And then they said somebody took a picture of it. So I was like, okay, here we have a family of drunks, and they just so happen that one of them is sturdy enough, sober enough that he took a clear picture of this ghost. And then they said, yeah, they sent it to the FBI. They're investigating it. Right. This family can really, really lie. Yeah, that's why I knew what they were saying. It wasn't true. Yeah, it just wasn't. There's so many things, and then if you question the younger kids that lived there, you got different stories because they weren't rehearsed good enough to tell the same thing. So you got contradicting statements from one brother to the other. Yeah? Even though allegedly they both saw this thing, they both described the events that happened that night differently. That, to me, is just saying a lot of things, that this is all bullshit. So I was remembering that, yeah, and I was like, yeah, if this was such an outstanding thing and there's photographic evidence, how come nobody's publishing it? There's things that just don't make sense, and like I said, this violates natural law. There's things that when you know Lakota Star Knowledge information, a lot of that explains what a soul is. It explains its journey and what happens to it, where it goes, and what is it comprised of, what makes it a soul. Yeah. And in Lakota Star Knowledge, you learn that the soul, you learn about its journey. It's basically teaching a reincarnation concept, that there is no heaven and there is no hell, that we keep coming back. Yeah. And it's not about, there's no karma involved because that's dualistic too. Yeah. So it's something different. But it talks about the soul as that when a woman gets pregnant, it's already considered a child. That's how it is in our way. Okay? As soon as she knows it, I mean, women know. Yeah? As soon as she knows, she starts talking to it and she's starting to program it. Yeah, it's already expressing love for this child, and tells this child about her family, and if it's going to have older brothers and sisters, it talks about that. It talks about the father, everybody, and she sings to it. She'll tell it stories, and she's taking care of its emotional aspect, because the self has four parts: the physical body, the mind, the spiritual part, and the emotional part. Yeah? And when a woman is pregnant, the four parts are there, but the soul of the child is not there. Okay? Not yet. The soul enters when the child takes its first breath, but there is something spiritual about this being. Okay? It has a physical body, of course, and as the mother is talking to it and singing to it and loving it, its emotions start to form. They start to develop. So when a mother doesn't do that, the emotions don't develop. Yeah, and so this is going to lead to problems after it's born. Okay, so the mother talks to it, she nurtures it, and so its emotional aspect is forming. This is telling you that the emotions belong to the physical body. The soul does not have emotions. Emotions belong to the body. Okay? And then as the child inside the body, it communicates that it can laugh. Therefore, it has a mind. Yeah? So the mind is in the brain. Yeah? That belongs to the physical body too. So memories, the mind, emotions belong to the physical body. So here we have the physical self, the mental self, and the emotional self are there. So 3 of the 4 parts are there. Okay? But as I said, when a woman conceives, as soon as she conceives, our grandmother Earth gives something to that child. It's a spiritual piece. Yeah? And that helps that child to live on this earth. Because it's from the grandmother Earth. Yeah? It's a spirit piece. And so it does have the 4 parts of the self. But it just has part of the soul there. It is a spiritual piece. So it is still 4 parts. Then when the child is born, the soul enters that child when it takes its first breath. And it joins with that soul piece from the grandmother Earth. So now when a person dies, the reverse happens. That soul piece goes back to the earth. Physical body dies, taking along with it emotions and the mind. And the soul leaves. Remember what I said? The emotions and the mind stay, but the soul is gone. It's continuing its journey. So does the soul have a voice? No, it doesn't. It can't. Voices need physical elements to produce sound. In our throats, we have something called a voice box. The way it's built allows us to produce a sound and to create words from those sounds, and then to create a language from those words. So the voice belongs to the physical body, does not belong to the soul. And the emotions also belong to the physical body. And the mind is part of the brain. So that belongs to the physical body too. So you see, how can a ghost talk? How can it scream? In Lakota Star Knowledge, the soul keeps coming back over and over and over and over, which means it's going to be different people every time. So if it's got a certain shape, it's not going to fit into everybody. Yeah? So it can't have a shape. So there is no form, there is no shape to a soul. This is Lakota Star Knowledge definition. So how can it scream when it can't produce a sound? So this is from Lakota Star Knowledge. And Lakota Star Knowledge contains nothing about ghosts because it doesn't make sense. The only ghost stories that we have are actually funny stories. Yeah? Really, this is no joke. So, in our way, it violates natural law. Can't exist. Yeah? So, from what I just told you, this is the reason why when I hear things like somebody says, oh yeah, I saw such and such, and it was screaming, or it was crying, or it was singing, or talking, or whatever, that's not the person. Yeah? Now, I'm not saying that the person is always hallucinating. I think a lot of times it is a hallucination, that we project something, a concern. Like, for example, when somebody didn't get a chance to say something to somebody, and suddenly that somebody died unexpectedly, very quickly. So that left an unresolved issue with a friend that's still alive, and that this concern could develop into an image of that dead person, and that dead person being upset because they didn't come to peace to it. That's only a projection, nothing more. It's not that person. That person has gone. So it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So in the rare events when people do actually see something, it's a residue. It's like a event that plays over and over and over. It's an experience. Yeah. It's just one experience. So it plays over and over and over and over. If you try to interact with it, it doesn't do anything because it's like a recording. Yeah, it's not real. It's an illusion. It's the manifestation of a residue, an energy. Yeah, of somebody that maybe didn't come to peace with this or whatever. But it's left over. It's not the actual person. The actual person is gone. Yeah, that's how that is. But here's the other thing. There are things that have been here ever since the earth was here that we can't see. But animals see them. Yeah. I remember where I lived in Dupree, we had this cat. Well, actually, it was at this house that I grew up in. When I was a teenager, I had cats there. They always looked to the stairway. And they really look up and down. And like, huh? Yeah. So I always got mad at the cats. I was like, hey, quit doing that. These cats would do that, yeah. They look up and down and up and they see something. Yeah. I really didn't like that. But they never ran away from it. Yeah. They were just amazed, that's all. And I think this is kind of, it's pointing to, what I'm talking about here, that there are things here, but they're not ghosts. Yeah, they are not. They're just entities that we can't see because their vibration is different. Yeah, it's almost like a different dimension, but actually they're not. Yeah, they're here too. It's just that they vibrate differently than we do, so we can't see them. And this is what holy people communicate with. Yeah. I heard this analogy before. Maybe you have too. I heard it once in Mothman Prophecies. It's like, let's say, okay, you're standing outside and you see this bug crawling on the ground and it's heading towards the highway. So you try to talk to it and you say, hey, there's a bunch of cars over there. They might run over you. How do you say that to that bug? For one thing, how do you speak to it so it can understand you? Yeah? What if we're the bugs and there's something that's trying to tell us about things? Do you see what I'm saying? They're in the water, they're in the fire, they're in the air, and they're of the earth. There's a account in Lakota Star Knowledge that talks about how they were created. It talks about who created them and what their purpose is. These are helpers. It's not good versus evil. Yeah? This is part of creation. what makes us think that everything we see is the only thing that is there? I think that would be very, 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 very paternalistic, very, very egotistic to say that, well, if I can't see it, then it doesn't exist. Yeah. The thing is, there's matter around us, but there's also dark matter. This is why we can't see it. It's in the universe. Why can't it be here on the earth? It is in the universe. It can be measured. Scientists watch certain parts of the sky and they notice that things move a certain way in some areas. They take measurements and they have all these fancy mathematical formulas, these physics things, and they figure out, shit, there's something there. But they can't see it. So they call it dark matter. There is a mass there. But they can't see it. Even the Hubble telescope senses it, and the Hubble telescope can't see it either. There is a mass there. So they call it dark matter. That's everywhere. This is things that people mistakenly call ghosts, and they're not. Yeah? And their way of communicating is probably something we can't understand because they're different. Star Knowledge talks about these. Yeah, Lakota Star Knowledge Stories talks about these creatures. And I think that's what people mistake as for ghosts. I mean, we have so much technology these days that you would think that a bunch of stuff shows up now. Same thing with UFO sightings. They have suddenly disappeared. The aliens were like, ah, shit, they have the internet. Ah, let's get out of here. Oh, shoot. You never know, yeah? So, but anyway, like I said, when you look at Lakota Star Knowledge, it explains a lot of things, and the whole idea of ghosts doesn't fit. Yeah, ghosts that can scream and cry and so forth, that doesn't exist. But what we do believe is that residue of experiences can be left behind. Yeah, it's an energy. So when that happens, normally it takes somebody who can move that energy, to kind of cause that energy to transform into something different or to bring it to peace. Yeah? But the actual souls are not there.